Hello, pen people. This is Ivan again with Inktronics, coming back with a different pen. What do we have here? It's even got a sticker, the original sticker denoting the nib size there. You can read it. It's medium. Well, some might look at this real quick and say, "Oh, that's a Sheaffer." You'd be sort of close, sort of. This is actually a Venus pen. It's a cartridge pen, and this is from around the 1950s, roughly. Back in the 1950s, 1955, around there somewhere. This pen would have sold for about $1.29. In today's dollars, that's about the price of a Pilot Metropolitan, 12 or so dollars. So this would have been the Pilot Metropolitan of 1955 or so. Excuse me. It has, you can see there, it says Venus. I think you can see it with a nice little V logo there that's kind of filled in with green. I don't know how close I can get it there. Chrome cap, the red barrel. It's plastic barrel, metal cap. And then what is this? It's a hooded nib. So now here's the interesting thing. I couldn't dig up too much information on this pen because it just wasn't really a top tier pen. This would have been a second tier pen, I believe. So the information on it is sparse, but this pen uses Sheaffer ink cartridges. So Venus Pencil Company, there's a Sheaffer cartridge in there. Venus Pencil Company may have had a deal with Sheaffer to get these produced. Nothing special on the nib. Again, it's a medium steel nib, probably, for the price that it was. And this one has never been inked. It still actually has some of the injection molding stuff here. I had to scrape some of it off here because there was a little bit of crud or something that, or plastic, I should say, that stuck out. And the gentleman that sold it to me sold it with an empty cartridge that I could use to refill. But you can see that's very, very Sheaffer there. And I mean, if you look at pens from that cartridge filling pens from Sheaffer in that era, they look something similar to this. This is actually a little bit more modern, but this is a cartridge pen. It is inked, and this is a Sheaffer. I think this one's from around the 80s or so. This is very similar to the pen I first had. It was my first fountain pen. It has Sheaffer brown in there, a Sheaffer brown cartridge, and it is very similar. So this pen, Venus, actually, they had nicer pens. I have this one here. This is the Venus President. Very nice. You can see lever filler. This cap, this striated material, I believe is celluloid. I'm not real positive, but I can't remember where. I think it's right in this area. You can, if you look at it under magnification, you can kind of see a seam that runs right along here, and it's kind of indicative that it may be celluloid. It kind of shows up right there, that where that black darker line is. And this actually has a 14K nib, 14K gold nib. So this is a really nice pen. It's a little bit flexible. Nothing I would push too far, but Venus made some very nice pens. Unfortunately, they didn't make it. I don't know exactly when they went out of business. I had that information, and I can't seem to find it in front of me here on. I have my notes off screen here. but I can't find it. So, but this pen, again, I got it for really next to nothing. The gentleman was nice enough to include a empty cartridge with it. He also said the way you fill these, if you were to use a new Sheaffer cartridge, you just put the cartridge inside the barrel and then just screw it back in, and that action punctures the cartridge, and you wait a few seconds and the ink will start flowing. He, for good measure, he inserted, I don't know if it's visible, but he said he put a little, I don't think you can see it, a piece of an eraser, pencil eraser in there to kind of make sure that the cartridge was going to get punctured there. I haven't inked it, like I said. From what I've read, it's a little bit of a rough nib. It's nothing special. It is kind of cool that you know, there's a possibility that Sheaffer may have had something to do with this pen. It's not confirmed, but it's a possibility. Just with that filling system, it's kind of hard to believe that Venus would have gone through the trouble of just making their own filling system that would imitate Sheaffer's. But once again, this is the Venus cartridge pen. They shouldn't be very expensive. I can't remember exactly. I got this pen over a year ago, and I think I paid $10. Don't quote me on that. I think that's what I paid. It feels a little plasticky. It feels light. It's very light. Let's get the scale so we can go ahead and weigh that for you. As you can see there's a little piece of the plastic there. That's what I was talking about. This little piece here. It must have been in the cap. That's what I've been peeling off this edge here. So this has never been inked, but let's get that scale for you. Okay, let's turn this on. Oops. And it's zeroed out. There we go. Very light pen. With the cap, you're looking at 13.1 grams. Without the cap, and most of the weight is in the cap. Without, at least I believe it is. 7.1, no. It's going crazy. 7.1, 7.2 grams for the pen there. It doesn't feel unbalanced when you post it. You can post it. It's a good looking pen. It's on the thin side. If we measure that here at the section, 9.9 millimeters, and it tapers down out to about 7 millimeters, and then here's the thicker side of it, 10.3 millimeters. So not a very thick pen, but it is comfortable to hold. There's a little step down right about here. You can just barely feel it, but it doesn't dig in or anything like that. It's very comfortable, and because it's this smooth all the way down, you can pretty much hold it anywhere on this barrel. But it's a nice pen. It's a good pen. Don't expect much if you look for them. It's a cheap pen, so it was probably sold in drugstores just like your typical big pen nowadays. So it's something, if you can find them in this unused condition, I'd say pick one up. If it's used, apparently from what I read, the what's it called? The section tends to stain, even though you're not dipping this pen. Just from normal writing. If ink gets into the cap, it's going to stain this section. So be aware of that. So if you're not into stained pens, you might want to stay away. But for me, this was pretty cool. I'm not usually into hooded nibs. I like the look of a hooded nib, but in practicality of using the pen, I have trouble aligning the nib. I can't see where it's at. If you can see, this is the angle I would be looking at. You can barely tell where that nib is at, and so I have trouble doing that. I usually end up rolling the nib in a direction that it can't write. So that's why I don't like hooded nibs. But cosmetically, I really like the look. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please comment, like the video if you would be so kind, and subscribe also. Thanks for watching.